They said he had a heart of stone. They said Dominic Moretti didn't feel love, fear, or regret. As the don of the city's most ruthless crime family, mercy was a language he refused to speak. But on a rainy Tuesday, inside the sterile walls of a private hospital room, a tired, underpaid nurse did the unthinkable. She didn't tremble in his presence. She didn't beg for her life. Instead, she turned her back on the devil to wipe the tears from his dying mother's face. She offered kindness when the world expected fear. And in that silence, watching from the shadows, the devil didn't just fall in love. He made a terrifying vow. A vow that would burn the city to the ground just to keep her safe. This is the story of the night the Mafia boss found his queen. The fluorescent lights of St. Jude's private wing hummed with an irritating buzz that usually gave Lily Harper a migraine by 3:20 a.m. But tonight, she didn't have time to worry about her head. The fourth floor, reserved for the city's elite, the politicians, the celebrities, and the dangerously wealthy, was in a state of panic. "I'm not going in there," Jessica, the senior nurse, whispered, her hands trembling as she clutched a tray of untouched food. "She threw the soup at me, Lily. It's boiling hot. And her guards, they look like they want to execute us for bad service." Lily sighed, rubbing the back of her neck. She adjusted her scrubs, which were slightly faded compared to the crisp uniforms of the private staff. Lily usually worked in the ER, the chaotic, blood-soaked ground floor where gratitude was rare and trauma was constant. She had only been pulled up to the VIP wing tonight because they were short-staffed during the storm. "Room 402, Lily asked, checking the chart. "Mrs. Moretti?" Jessica's eyes went wide. "Shh, don't say the name so loud. Do you know who her son is?" "I don't care if her son is the Pope or the President," Lily said, taking the tray from Jessica's shaking hands. "The woman is 72 years old, recovering from a severe stroke, and likely frightened out of her mind. Fear makes people aggressive, Jess. You know that." "It's not just fear," Jessica hissed. "It's the Moretti blood. Just be careful. If the son is there, don't look him in the eye." Lily rolled her eyes. She had dealt with drug addicts coming down from a high, gang members with gunshot wounds, and frantic mothers. A rich guy in a suit didn't scare her. She walked down the pristine hallway. Two men in black suits stood outside room 402 like gargoyles. They were massive, their arms crossed, earpieces glowing faintly blue. As Lily approached, they stepped together, blocking the door. "Authorized personnel only," one growled. "I have Mrs. Moretti's medication and her dinner," Lily said, her voice steady. "Unless you two plan on spoon-feeding her and changing her IV drip, I suggest you step aside." The guards exchanged a look. One of them smirked, stepping back. "Good luck, sweetheart." Lily pushed the door open. The room was dark, lit only by the lightning flashing outside the floor-to-ceiling windows and the rhythmic beep of the cardiac monitor. The air smelled of expensive lilies and antiseptic. "Get out," a raspy voice croaked from the bed. "I told you vultures to leave me alone." Lily didn't flinch. She closed the door softly, shutting out the noise of the hallway. She walked to the bedside table and set the tray down. "I'm not a vulture, Mrs. Moretti. I'm Lily. And I'm afraid I'm much too stubborn to leave." Isabella Moretti lay frail against the white pillows. Her silver hair was matted, her face pale and drawn. The stroke had left the left side of her face slightly drooping, and the frustration in her eyes was heartbreaking. She tried to swipe at the tray, but her arm was weak. "I don't want it," Isabella wept, the anger dissolving into sudden, jagged misery. I can't even hold the spoon. Look at me, I'm pathetic." Lily lowered the safety rail and sat on the edge of the bed, a breach of protocol, but she didn't care. She reached out and took Isabella's trembling hand, The skin was paper-thin. "You are not pathetic," Lily said softly. "You are a woman who has likely held entire worlds together with these hands. It's okay to rest them for a while." Isabella looked up, shocked by the lack of fear in the girl's eyes. "My son, he will be angry if he sees me like this. Weak." "Then we won't tell him," Lily whispered conspiratorially. "Let's get you cleaned up first." For the next 20 minutes, Lily worked with efficient, gentle grace. She didn't rush. She used a warm cloth to wipe Isabella's face. She combed through the matted silver hair, humming a soft, nameless tune that seemed to settle the air in the room. When she fed Isabella the broth, she didn't do it with pity. She did it while chatting about the terrible weather and a funny dog she saw in the park, making Isabella feel like a person, not a patient. She didn't notice the figure sitting in the darker corner of the room, in the high-backed leather chair near the window. Dominic Moretti had been sitting there for 3 hours. He had watched 3 other nurses enter, get screamed at, and flee. He had been ready to fire the entire hospital staff. He was exhausted, his Armani suit rumpled, a glass of scotch untouched on the table beside him. He was the capo dei capi, the boss of bosses. Men bled when he whispered. Governments bent when he signed checks. But watching his mother, the Iron Matriarch, wither away was the one war he couldn't win. It made him feel helpless, and Dominic Moretti hated feeling helpless. He watched this girl, this Lily, enter. He expected the same fear, the same trembling hands. Instead, he saw courage. He watched her brush his mother's hair. He heard the softness in her voice. He saw the way she touched his mother's hand, not as if it were fragile glass, but as if it were precious. "My son," Isabella murmured as she finished the broth. "He carries the world. He's so heavy, child. His heart is heavy." "He loves you," Lily said, wiping Isabella's mouth. "That's why he hires all these scary men outside. Worry looks different on everyone." "He needs someone," Isabella whispered, her eyes closing as the medication kicked in. "Someone who isn't afraid of the dark." "Go to sleep, Isabella," Lily soothed, tucking the blankets around her shoulders. "The storm will pass by morning." Lily stood up, stretching her back. She turned to leave, and that was when lightning illuminated the corner of the room. She gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Dominic sat there, his steel-grey eyes locked onto her. He was terrifyingly handsome, with a jawline that could cut glass, and a darkness radiating off him that made the air temperature drop. He slowly stood up. He was tall, towering over her. Lily's heart hammered against her ribs. "The sun. I didn't know anyone was there," she stammered, clutching the empty tray. Dominic stepped into the light. He didn't speak immediately. He walked toward her, his movements predatory but controlled. He stopped inches from her. She could smell the scent of rain, expensive tobacco and sandalwood. "What is your name?" His voice was a low rumble, vibrating in her chest. "Lily," she breathed. "Lily Harper." Dominic looked at his sleeping mother, then back at Lily. For the first time in weeks, Isabella was sleeping peacefully, a faint smile on her face. "You're the first person she hasn't thrown something at in 3 days," Dominic said. "She was just scared," Lily defended, her chin lifting slightly. "Hospitals are lonely places, even for the rich. Maybe, especially for the rich." Dominic's eyes narrowed slightly. A challenge. She was challenging him. Most women threw themselves at him for his money or ran from him for his reputation. She did neither. She just stood there, defending his mother. "You have courage, Lily Harper," Dominic said. He reached into his jacket pocket. "No," Lily said instantly, stepping back. "I don't want a tip. I was doing my job." Dominic's hand paused. A smirk ghosted his lips. I wasn't going to offer you money. I was going to offer you a ride home. The storm is getting worse. I take the bus, Lily said firmly. Good night, Mr. Moretti. She turned and walked out the door, her legs shaking only after she was out of his sight. Dominic watched the door close. He looked back at his mother. Then he touched his earpiece. Enzo. Yes, boss? The voice crackled in his ear. Lily Harper. Find out who she is, where she lives, who she owes money to, who hurts her. Everything. Consider it done. Is she a threat? Dominic looked at the empty space where she had stood. No, he whispered. She's the future. 2 weeks had passed since the night at St. Jude's. For Lily, the memory of the intense man in the corner had faded into the background of her chaotic life. Her reality was far from the luxury of the VIP wing. Lily lived in a cramped apartment in a run-down neighborhood of Queens. The wallpaper was peeling, the radiator clanked, and her mailbox was always full of final notices. Her brother, Jack, was the reason for the empty bank account. Jack had a good heart, but a gambling addiction that was currently drowning them both. Lily worked double shifts, picking up extra hours at the clinic and waiting tables at a diner on weekends, just to pay the interest on his debts to local loan sharks. It was raining again, a cold, biting drizzle. Lily walked home from the bus stop, her shoes soaking through. She gripped her purse tight. The streetlights were out on her block again. As she fumbled for her keys at the entrance of her building, a rough hand grabbed her shoulder. Hey, beautiful. Lily spun around, dropping her keys. It was Vinny, a low-level enforcer for the Russo crime family, the rivals of the Morettis, though Lily didn't know the politics. She only knew Vinny was the man who broke fingers when payments were late. I don't have it, Vinny, Lily said, her voice trembling but defiant. I get paid on Friday. Tell Jack to stop dodging you. I can't. Jack's gone, sweetheart. Vinny sneered, stepping closer, pinning her against the brick wall. Skipped town yesterday. Left a big tab. And guess who's listed as his guarantor? Lily felt the blood drain from her face. He wouldn't leave. He did. $40,000, Lily. That's the tag. Vinny twirled a knife in his hand. Now the boss, Victor Russo, he likes pretty things. Maybe we can work out a trade. He reached for her face. Lily slapped his hand away, screaming for help. But the street was deserted. Vinny laughed, grabbing her hair. Feisty, I like that. Suddenly, a blinding light flooded the alleyway. The roar of an engine shattered to the night. A sleek, black SUV screeched to a halt at the curb. 2 more pulled up behind it. Vinny froze, squinting into the lights. Who the hell? The doors opened. 4 men stepped out, weapons drawn, moving with military precision. But it was the man who stepped out of the lead vehicle who made the air stand still. Dominic Moretti wore a long black trench coat, the collar turned up against the rain. He didn't run. He walked with a terrifying, calm purpose. Let her go, Dominic said. He didn't yell. He didn't have to. Vinny's eyes went wide. He recognized the face. Everyone in the underworld recognized that face. Moretti, Vinny stammered, releasing Lily instantly. She slumped against the wall, gasping for air. This is a misunderstanding. The girl owes the Russos debt. It's business. Dominic stopped 3 feet from Vinny. He towered over the thug. She owes you nothing, Dominic said, because I just bought her debt. What? Vinny blinked. I bought the debt, and the building, and the block, Dominic said coldly. He nodded to his men. 2 guards seized Vinny, dragging him toward the cars. Tell Victor Russo that if he sends another dog to sniff around my property, I will cut off his hands. Vinny was thrown into a trunk. The cars sped off, leaving only the lead SUV. Silence returned to the street, heavy and thick. Lily slid down the wall, her knees giving out. She was shaking violently, the adrenaline crashing. Dominic knelt in front of her. The wet pavement soaked his expensive trousers, but he didn't seem to notice. He took off his trench coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. It was warm and smelled of him. Safety and danger all at once. "Lily," he said softly. She looked up, her eyes wide with shock. You're the man from the hospital." "Dominic," he corrected. "Are you hurt?" "Why?" she whispered, clutching the coat. "Why did you do that? $40,000. I can't pay you back. I have nothing." Dominic reached out, his thumb grazing her cheek, wiping away a smudge of dirt. His touch was electric. "I didn't ask for money," he said. "Then what do you want?" "My mother asks for you every day," Dominic said. "She refuses to eat unless the angel brings it. The best specialists in the world, and she wants the nurse from Queens." Lily let out a jagged laugh, bordering on hysteria. "You bought my debt because your mum needs a babysitter?" "I cleared your debt because no one touches what is mine." Dominic's voice dropped an octave, the possessiveness dark and absolute. Lily stiffened. "I'm not yours." "You are now," Dominic said, though his eyes weren't cruel. They were intense, burning with that vow he had made in the hospital room. "You can't stay here, Lily. The Russos know your face now. Jack is gone. You have a target on your back." "I can take care of myself," she argued weakly. "Clearly," Dominic gestured to the alley where she had almost been assaulted. He stood up and offered her his hand. "Come with me. Live at the estate. Care for Isabella. You will be safe. You will never have to worry about money, or loan sharks, or hunger again. And if I say no, then I will leave a detail of 6 guards outside this dump of an apartment 24/7, which will annoy my neighbors." Dominic smirked dryly. "And I will still pay your debt, but I'd prefer you where I can see you." Lily looked at his hand. It was large, scarred across the knuckles, but steady. She looked at her dark apartment building, where loneliness and fear waited. Then she looked at the man who had terrified a gangster with a single sentence. She was walking into the lion's den. She knew it. But looking into Dominic's steel-grey eyes, she felt a strange, magnetic pull. He was dangerous, yes? But for the first time in her life, the danger wasn't directed at her. It was standing between her and the world. She reached out and took his hand. "Okay," she whispered. Dominic's fingers closed around hers, firm and possessive. He pulled her up. "Enzo," he spoke into his lapel as he led her to the car. "We're coming home. Prepare the east wing." As Lily slid into the heated leather seat of the SUV, she didn't know that by entering the Moretti estate, she was stepping into the middle of a war, and she certainly didn't know that Dominic Moretti had already decided that he wasn't just hiring a nurse. He was bringing home the woman he intended to keep forever. But the Russos weren't going to let a debt, or an insult, go unpaid. And in the shadows of the Moretti mansion, secrets about Lily's own past were waiting to surface. The iron gates of the Moretti estate didn't just close, they slammed shut with a finality that echoed in Lily's bones. The estate was less of a home and more of a fortress disguised as a palace. Located on the cliffs overlooking the Hudson River, it was a sprawling masterpiece of Gothic architecture. Stone gargoyles, towering turrets, and acres of manicured gardens that looked beautiful but felt cold. "Welcome to Purgatory," Lily muttered under her breath as the SUV rolled up the winding driveway. Dominic, sitting beside her, didn't look at her. He was busy typing on a secure phone, his face illuminated by the harsh blue light. "It's not Purgatory, Lily. It's the safest place on the eastern seaboard. The president has less security than my mother. And less freedom, I assume, Lily shot back. Dominic finally looked up, his expression unreadable. Freedom is a luxury for people who aren't being hunted. You're alive. That should be enough for today. When the car stopped, the doors were opened by stone-faced guards. Dominic ushered her inside, his hand hovering at the small of her back, never touching, but close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. The foyer was breathtaking. Black marble floors, a crystal chandelier the size of her old apartment, and a grand staircase that seemed to lead to the heavens. But Lily noticed the details Dominic probably didn't want her to see. The security cameras in every corner, the bulge of holsters under the tailored suits of the staff, the way the windows were reinforced with thick, bulletproof glass. "Enzo will show you to your room," Dominic said, checking his watch. "I have business to attend to. Dinner is at 8. Don't be late. My mother hates eating alone." "Wait," Lily called out as he turned to leave. "What about my job? My life? I can't just exist here." Dominic paused, his back to her. "Your job is Isabella. Your life is here now. As for existing, try to enjoy the amenities, Lily. You've been surviving for a long time. Try living." He walked away, disappearing into a dark oak door at the end of the hall. The first week was a blur of opulence and isolation. Lily's room in the East Wing was larger than any house she had ever lived in. It had a 4-poster bed draped in silk, a bathroom with a clawfoot tub, and a balcony overlooking the stormy ocean. Her closet had been filled with clothes, not scrubs or worn-out jeans, but cashmere sweaters, silk blouses, and soft trousers in her exact size. It was terrifying how much he knew about her. But Lily Harper wasn't a woman who could be bought with silk. She threw herself into caring for Isabella. The matriarch had been moved to a medical suite within the mansion that rivaled any ICU. Under Lily's care, Isabella began to thrive. The color returned to her cheeks. She started sitting up, then walking with assistance. They developed a routine. Mornings were for physical therapy, afternoons for tea in the garden under the watchful eyes of 4 guards, and evenings were for reading. Isabella was sharp, witty, and dangerously observant. "You're pacing again, child," Isabella said, one rainy Tuesday afternoon, watching Lily march back and forth across the Persian rug. "I feel useless," Lily admitted, stopping. "I'm used to working double shifts. I'm used to noise. Here, it's so quiet. And he avoids me." Isabella set her teacup down. "Dominic, he doesn't avoid you. He watches you." Lily frowned. "I haven't seen him in 3 days." "He sees you," Isabella corrected. "He watches the security feeds. He asks the staff what you ate. He asks Enzo if you smiled today. My son is a predator, Lily. He stalks before he approaches." "That's comforting," Lily said sarcastically. "He thinks he is dangerous to you," Isabella said softly. "Dominic believes that everything he touches turns to ash. He is trying to protect you from himself." That night, the isolation broke. Lily couldn't sleep. The silence of the mansion was suffocating. At 2 a.m., she wandered down to the massive kitchen to find water. She was wearing a simple silk robe she had found in the closet, her hair loose around her shoulders. She didn't expect to find Dominic sitting at the kitchen island. He was in his shirt sleeves, his tie undone, a half-empty bottle of whiskey in front of him. A file folder was open, spread with gruesome photos that Lily quickly looked away from. He looked up, his eyes bloodshot and weary. The ruthless Don looked human for a second. "Couldn't sleep?" His voice was rough, like gravel grinding together. "It's too quiet here," Lily said, clutching her robe tighter. She walked to the fridge, trying to ignore the intense way he watched her movement. "Is that work?" "The kind that keeps the lights on," Dominic replied dryly, closing the file. "And keeps the monsters out." "You are the monster, aren't you?" Lily asked, pouring a glass of water. She turned to face him, leaning against the counter. Dominic laughed, a dark, humorless sound. "I am the king of monsters, Lily. That's why the little ones fear me." He stood up and walked around the island. The air in the kitchen shifted. It became heavy, charged with electricity. He stopped in front of her. He was so tall, so broad. Lily felt like a rabbit standing before a wolf, but she refused to run. "Why am I really here, Dominic?" she whispered. "Isabella is better. I could go. You could hire a private nurse." "No one touches my mother but you," he said, stepping closer. He reached out, his hand hovering near her hair. "And you can't go. The Russos, they haven't forgotten. I'm just a nurse with a gambling addict for a brother. Why do they care?" Dominic's jaw tightened. "Because I took you. In this world, taking something the enemy wants is an act of war. If I let you go, they will find you within the hour, and they will hurt you just to send me a message." He trapped her against the counter, placing his hands on the marble on either side of her hips. He leaned down, his face inches from hers. She could smell the whiskey and the danger. "You are in the cage, Lily," he murmured, his eyes dropping to her lips. "But I promise you, nothing gets inside this cage unless I allow it." "And what if I want to get out?" she breathed, her heart hammering against her ribs. Dominic's eyes darkened. "You don't want to leave. You're just scared of what makes you stay." He didn't kiss her. He wanted to. She could see the hunger in his eyes, a starving, desperate need. But he pulled back, his discipline snapping into place like a steel trap. "Go to bed, Lily," he commanded, turning away. "Before I forget that I'm supposed to be a gentleman." Lily fled the kitchen, her skin burning where his gaze had touched her. She realized with terrifying clarity that Isabella was right. He wasn't avoiding her because he didn't care. He was avoiding her because he wanted to consume her. And the scariest part, she wanted to let him. 3 weeks later, the atmosphere in the Moretti estate shifted from quiet tension to frantic preparation. The annual Governor's Charity Gala was the most important event on the social calendar. It was neutral ground, a place where politicians, police chiefs, and crime lords mingled under the guise of philanthropy. It was a masquerade, a night of lies and silk. Isabella, now walking with a cane but looking regal, insisted on going. "It is time the city sees I am not dead," she declared. "And you, Lily, are coming with me." "Me?" Lily dropped the towel she was folding. "Absolutely not. I don't belong there. I don't even have a dress." "We will solve the dress problem." A deep voice boomed from the doorway. Dominic leaned against the frame. He looked different lately, less exhausted, though no less dangerous. "You will attend. It's a security risk to leave you here alone while the entire guard detail is at the gala. Besides," he looked her up and down, his gaze lingering, "you need to see the world you're living in." The preparation was grueling. A team of stylists descended on the estate. They poked, prodded, and polished Lily until she felt more like a doll than a woman. But when she stepped in front of the mirror that evening, her breath hitched. The dress Dominic had chosen for her was a weapon. It was deep emerald green silk, backless, hugging every curve of her body before pooling at her feet. It was modest in the front, but scandalously low in the back. A silver masquerade mask with emerald accents lay on the vanity. She looked powerful. She looked like a Mafia queen. When she walked down the grand staircase, the foyer went silent. Enzo stopped checking his gun. The guards stared. Dominic was waiting at the bottom. He wore a tuxedo that fit him like a second skin, a black velvet mask in his hand. When he saw her, he stopped breathing. For a long moment, the ruthless Don was just a man struck dumb by beauty. He walked up the last few steps to meet her, taking her hand. "Emerald," he murmured, bringing her knuckles to his lips. "The color of envy. Because every man in the room will envy me tonight." "You look decent too, I suppose," Lily quipped, trying to hide her trembling hands. "Stay close to me." Dominic's voice hardened, shifting back to business. "Tonight is dangerous. The Russos will be there. Do not speak to anyone you don't know. Do not take a drink from anyone but Enzo." The gala was held at the city's historic opera house. It was a sea of diamonds, champagne, and fake smiles. The air was thick with tension. Lily felt the eyes on her. Some curious, some predatory. Dominic never left her side. His hand was a constant weight on the small of her back, a brand of ownership. They moved through the crowd, Dominic greeting judges and senators with a charming smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. Lily saw the power he wielded. People didn't just respect him, they were terrified of him. "May I have this dance?" Dominic asked as the orchestra began a waltz. He didn't wait for an answer. He swept her onto the floor. Dancing with Dominic was like dancing with a storm. He was strong, leading her with effortless grace. For a few minutes, the world fell away. There were no guns, no debts, no rival families, just the heat of his hand on her waist and the intensity of his gaze through the mask. "You fit," he whispered, spinning her. "Where?" "Here, in my arms, in my world." "Your world is full of monsters, Dominic," she reminded him. "Then be the beauty that tames them," he countered. Suddenly the music seemed to distort. A man bumped into them, hard. Dominic stopped instantly, his arm tightening around Lily like a vice. He shoved her behind him. Standing there, removing a white mask with a theatrical flourish, was Victor Russo. He was younger than Dominic, flashier, with a cruel smile, and eyes that looked like dead sharks. "Dominic," Victor grinned, spreading his arms. "So nice to see the family out and about. And the mother is walking. It's a miracle." "Walk away, Victor," Dominic said, his voice dropping to that terrifyingly quiet level. "Before I stain this floor." "I just came to say hello to your new pet," Victor looked at Lily, licking his lips. "She cleans up nice. Expensive taste, Moretti. But then again, she cost you a fortune." "She's priceless," Dominic snarled. "Is she?" Victor laughed. "Or is she just a pawn? You know, her brother is a very talkative man." Lily froze. "Jack?" She stepped out from behind Dominic. "Where is he?" "Ah, the sister speaks," Victor smirked. "Jack is staying with us. A guest. He told us some very interesting things, Lily. About your childhood. About the debts and..." Victor leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper that only they could hear. "He told us how to get into the Moretti shipments at the docks." Dominic stiffened. "You're lying," Lily said, her voice shaking. "Jack wouldn't." "Jack is a junkie, sweetheart. He'd sell his own kidney for a fix. He definitely sold you," Victor sneered. "He came to me first, you know. Offered you as payment. But Moretti got there first. I was just biding my time." Victor pulled a phone from his pocket and turned the screen towards them. It was a video. Jack, tied to a chair, bruised and bloody, crying into the camera. "Lily, I'm sorry. I had to tell them. They said they'd kill me. I'm sorry, Lil." Lily felt the room spin. The champagne, the music, the lights, it all blurred into nausea. Her brother hadn't just run. He had betrayed the only man trying to save her. "Jack gave us the roots, Dominic," Victor said, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "My men are hitting your shipment in Jersey right now, while you're here, playing Prince Charming." Dominic didn't look at the phone. He looked at Victor. "You think a shipment matters to me?" Dominic asked. "It's 50 million in product." Victor frowned, confused by Dominic's lack of reaction. "Keep it," Dominic said. Victor blinked. "What?" "Keep the shipment. Consider it a severance package." Dominic took a step forward, his presence growing so massive it seemed to suck the air out of the room. "Because you made a mistake, Victor. You touched her family. You used her pain to get to me." Dominic reached into his tuxedo jacket. The music in the hall seemed to stop. "You think I came here tonight to dance?" Dominic smiled, and it was the smile of the devil himself. "I came here to establish an alibi." Suddenly, the lights in the opera house flickered and died. Panic erupted. Screams filled the darkness. "Enzo, get her out!" Dominic roared in the dark. Lily felt rough hands grab her. "Enzo!" He was pulling her away, dragging her through the screaming crowd toward the emergency exit. "Dominic!" she screamed, reaching back into the darkness. "Dominic!" A gunshot rang out, then another. The masquerade was over. The war had begun. As Enzo shoved Lily into the waiting armored car in the alleyway, she saw the back exit of the opera house burst open. Dominic emerged, his tuxedo torn, his knuckles bloody, holding a gun in one hand and his mask in the other. He jumped into the car as it sped off. "Did you kill him?" Lily gasped, clutching her chest. Dominic looked at her, wiping blood from his lip. He looked exhilaratingly, terrifyingly alive. "No," Dominic said, checking the magazine of his gun. "Death is too easy. I sent a message." "What about Jack?" Lily cried. "They have Jack!" Dominic turned to her, his eyes blazing with intensity. He grabbed her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him. "Then we go get him," Dominic vowed. "No one betrays you, Lily. Not even your brother. And no one takes what is mine." The car swerved onto the highway, speeding into the night. Lily realized with a jolt that the man beside her had just started a gang war, forfeited $50 million, and turned a charity gala into a shooting gallery. All for her. She looked at his bloody hands and felt a strange, terrifying realization settle in her heart. She wasn't just a nurse anymore. She was an accomplice, and she was falling in love with the villain. The armored SUV tore through the industrial district of New Jersey, the tires hissing against the wet asphalt. Inside, the air was thick enough to choke on. Lily sat huddled in the corner of the leather seat, shivering despite the climate control. She wasn't cold. She was in shock. The image of her brother's bruised face on Victor Russo's phone screen burned behind her eyelids. He sold me. The thought was a jagged shard of glass in her heart. She had worked double shifts for him. She had starved so he could eat. She had faced down loan sharks in alleyways. And for $50,000 and a clean slate, Jack had told the Russos where to find Dominic's trucks. He had traded her safety for a gambling debt. "Stop shaking," Dominic's voice cut through the silence. It wasn't harsh. It was commanded grounding. He reached across the console, taking her icy hand in his. His hand was warm, rough, and stained with dried blood from the brawl at the opera house. "He's your brother," Dominic said, looking straight ahead at the rain-slicked road. "Blood is difficult to wash off. I know this better than anyone." "He betrayed you," Lily whispered, her voice cracking. "He cost you millions tonight. Why are we saving him?" Dominic squeezed her hand, tight enough to hurt, just for a second. "I am not saving him for me, Lily. I am saving him so you don't have to mourn him. If the Russos kill him, you will blame yourself. You will think, if only I had done more. I am saving him so you can look him in the eye and decide his fate yourself." The car swerved off the main road, bouncing down a gravel track toward the docks. Ahead, a dilapidated warehouse loomed against the skyline, surrounded by rusted shipping containers. It was the Russo Processing Center, a place where money was laundered and people disappeared. "Enzo," Dominic spoke into his earpiece. "Status." "Heat signatures confirm 8 hostiles inside." Enzo's voice crackled back. "Jack is in the back office. They're working him over. Russo's men are angry about the scene at the gala. They think we won't hit them this fast." "They think wrong." Dominic unclipped his seatbelt. He turned to Lily. "Stay in the car. The glass is bulletproof. If the doors open for anyone but me or Enzo, you use this." He pulled a small silver pistol from his ankle holster and placed it in her trembling hands. "Dominic, I can't shoot a gun," she gasped, staring at the cold metal. "Point and squeeze," he said grimly. "But you won't have to. I'll be back in 10 minutes. He opened the door and vanished into the rain. Lily watched through the darkened window. She saw Dominic and 3 of his guards move like shadows. They didn't run. They flowed. They approached the side entrance. There was a brief flash of silenced muzzle fire. 2 guards dropped outside the door. Then, they were inside. For 5 minutes, there was only the sound of rain drumming on the roof. Lily gripped the gun, her knuckles white. She prayed. She prayed for Dominic. She prayed for Jack. She prayed for forgiveness, for praying for a mob boss. Then, the warehouse door kicked open. Dominic emerged, dragging a limp figure by the collar of his shirt. Enzo followed, covering their rear. They reached the car. Dominic opened the back door and shoved Jack inside. Jack was a mess. His left eye was swollen shut, his lip split, his ribs likely broken. He smelled of sweat, fear, and cheap whiskey. He groaned, curling into a ball on the floor of the SUV. "Drive," Dominic ordered the driver as he slid into the seat beside Lily. As the car sped away, leaving the warehouse behind, Jack coughed, spitting blood onto the pristine floor mats. He looked up and saw Lily. "Lil?" he croaked. You came?" Lily looked at him. For years she had looked at him with pity, with love, with a desperate need to protect him. But now, looking at the man who had sold her to a monster like Victor Russo, she felt something break. "I came," she said, her voice flat. Dominic came. Jack flinched at the name. He looked at Dominic, who was calmly wiping rain from his face with a handkerchief, ignoring Jack entirely. "I didn't mean to, Lil." Jack started crying, the sound pathetic and wheezing. "They threatened me. They said they'd cut off my fingers. I needed a way out. They said if I gave them the route, they'd clear the debt. They said they wouldn't hurt you, just keep you for a while." "Keep me?" Lily's voice rose, trembling with rage. "You know what men like Victor Russo do to women they keep. Jack, do you?" Jack looked down, unable to meet her eyes. "I needed the money, Lily. You don't understand. You've always been the good one, the smart one. Oh, Lily is a nurse. Lily is an angel. It's hard being the disappointment." "So you sold me?" she screamed, tears finally spilling over. "Because you were jealous? I was desperate," Jack shouted back. "Silence!" Dominic's voice was a thunderclap. The car went deadly quiet. Dominic turned his head slowly to look at Jack. The predator was back. "You are alive because she is sitting here," Dominic said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "If she were not here, I would open this door and kick you out onto the highway at 80 miles an hour." Jack shrank back against the door. Dominic turned to Lily. "He is your blood. What is your will? Do we take him to the hospital? Do we give him money? Or do we leave him?" Lily looked at her brother. She saw the selfishness in his eyes. He wasn't sorry he did it. He was sorry he got caught. If she saved him again, he would do it again. Next time, it might be Isabella. Next time, it might be Dominic. "Stop the car," Lily said. The driver hesitated, looking at Dominic. Dominic nodded. The SUV pulled over onto the shoulder of the desolate highway. "Lily," Jack asked, panic rising in his voice. "What are you doing?" "Get out," Lily said. "What? It's pouring rain. I'm hurt." "You sold me for $40,000, Lily said, her eyes hard. "You sold my safety. You sold my body to the Russos. You aren't my brother anymore, Jack. You're just a ghost." "Lily, please," Jack begged, reaching for her. Dominic's hand shot out, grabbing Jack's wrist before he could touch her. He twisted it, making Jack yelp. "She said, 'Get out,'" Dominic growled. Enzo opened the door and hauled Jack out into the rain. He threw him onto the grass. Jack scrambled up, banging on the window, screaming her name. Lily stared straight ahead, tears streaming down her face, but she didn't look at him. She didn't flinch. "Go," she whispered. Dominic signaled the driver. The car peeled away, leaving Jack screaming in the rearview mirror, a small figure disappearing into the storm. Lily finally broke. A sob escaped her throat, and she covered her face with her hands. In an instant, Dominic pulled her into him. He didn't care about the blood or the tears. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her head onto his chest. He held her while she cried for the brother she had lost long before tonight. "You did the brave thing," Dominic murmured into her hair, kissing the top of her head. "Mercy is expensive, Lily. But sometimes, cutting the cord is the only way to survive." She clung to his lapels, listening to the steady, strong beat of his heart. She had lost her family, but wrapped in the arms of the Mafia boss, she realized she might have found a new one, and that terrified her more than the guns. The silence of the estate was a lie. When the armored SUV passed the gates at 3 a.m., the air was thick with impending violence. Dominic didn't go to bed. He went straight to the command center, leaving Lily with a single order: "Stay in your room." But Lily didn't listen. She ran to Isabella's suite, her instincts screaming that the walls were about to fall. She found the matriarch awake, sitting upright in bed, a double-barreled shotgun resting across her floral duvet. "They are here," Isabella said calmly. As if on cue, the power died. The estate plunged into darkness, followed immediately by the deafening crash of glass and the staccato bark of automatic gunfire from the foyer. The Russos hadn't waited for dawn. They had breached the perimeter. "Lock the door," Isabella commanded, leveling her weapon at the entrance. "Dominic is down there," Lily whispered, panic gripping her chest. She grabbed the bedside radio. "Dominic?" "Lily, stay put!" Dominic's voice roared through the static, accompanied by the sound of bullets tearing into wood. "Victor is in the library hallway. We're pinned down!" Lily looked at Isabella. They both knew the library's layout. It was a dead end if the Russos used grenades. "The fire suppression system," Lily realized. "It will flood the floor. The steam will blind them." She didn't wait for permission. Lily sprinted into the hallway, dodging the shadows of fighting men, and smashed the glass of the emergency alarm. She pulled the lever. Instantly, the klaxons wailed. Sprinklers erupted overhead, drenching the mansion in a torrential downpour. Lily ran to the balcony overlooking the grand foyer. Below, the scene was chaotic. The water hit the hot lights, creating a thick fog. In the confusion, Dominic moved like a phantom. He tackled a gunman, then charged toward the drawing room where Victor Russo waited. Lily scrambled down the wet marble stairs, slipping and sliding, driven by terror and adrenaline. She reached the drawing room doorway just in time to see Dominic and Victor crashing into the fireplace. Dominic was exhausted, bleeding from a shoulder wound. Victor, younger and uninjured, gained the upper hand. He grabbed a heavy brass poker, raising it over Dominic's head with a manic grin. "Say goodbye to your kingdom, Moretti," Victor screamed. Dominic tried to block, but he was too slow. Lily didn't think. She grabbed a heavy crystal vase from a side table and hurled it with every ounce of strength she possessed. Crash. The vase shattered against the back of Victor's skull. He staggered forward, stunned, the poker dropping from his hand. He turned slowly, eyes wide, staring at Lily in disbelief. "You—" Dominic didn't hesitate. He drew his backup pistol and fired 3 times. Victor Russo collapsed onto the soaked Persian rug, dead before he hit the floor. The room fell silent, save for the hissing sprinklers. Dominic stood up, chest heaving, water dripping from his hair. He looked at the dead man, then at Lily. He walked over to her, his eyes burning with an intensity that terrified and thrilled her. He grabbed her face with wet, bloody hands. "You threw a vase," he breathed, incredulous. "It was expensive," Lily choked out a laugh, shaking violently. "I don't care." Dominic pulled her into a crushing embrace, burying his face in her neck. "You saved me." In the ruins of the flooded room, surrounded by destruction, Lily realized the war was over. She hadn't just survived the night. She had earned her place at the king's side. Spring arrived at the Moretti estate, washing away the grey memory of winter and the blood of the war. The walls had been repaired, the carpets replaced, and the silence of the fortress had been filled with something new. Laughter. Isabella was in the garden, directing the gardeners with the imperious wave of her cane, looking healthier than she had in years. On the balcony overlooking the sea, Lily stood watching the sunset. She wore a simple white dress, the bruises from that night long faded, though the memories remained sharp. "You're thinking too loud," a deep voice murmured behind her. Dominic wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. He was no longer the exhausted, lonely wolf she had met in the hospital. He was steady. He was hers. "I was thinking about how quiet it is." Lily leaned her head back against his shoulder. "It's peaceful." "Peace is expensive." Dominic kissed the side of her neck. "But for you, I'd buy it 1,000 times over." He turned her around, his grey eyes searching hers. "Lily, when I first saw you, I thought you were just a moment of kindness in a cruel world. I was wrong. You weren't a moment. You were the anchor." Dominic reached into his pocket. He didn't kneel. He wasn't a man who knelt for anyone. Instead, he held up a ring. It wasn't a diamond. It was an emerald, deep and green, surrounded by diamonds, the color of the dress she wore the night she fought for him. "I made a vow that night in the hospital," Dominic said, his voice rough with emotion, "to keep you safe. But I want to make a new vow, not just to protect you, but to serve you, to love you until the last star burns out. Be my wife, Lily. Be the queen of this kingdom." Lily looked at the ring, then at the man who had burned the world down for her. She smiled, tears pricking her eyes. "Yes," she whispered, "but only if you promise one thing. Anything. No more shooting inside the house. It ruins the rugs." Dominic laughed, a true, deep sound of joy. He slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her, sealing the promise. The nurse from Queen's had walked into the devil's den and hadn't just survived. She had tamed the beast, and in his arms she finally found her home. And so, the nurse, who offered a simple cup of water to a dying woman, ended up holding the heart of the city's most dangerous man. It proves that sometimes kindness is the most powerful weapon of all, and that even in the darkest shadows, love can find a way to bloom. Lily and Dominic's story reminds us that family isn't always blood. It's who stands by you when the rain starts to fall. Thank you so much for listening to this full story. What did you think of Lily's choice to cut off her brother? Was she too harsh, or did Jack get what he deserved? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this romance drama, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. We release new episodes every week. Until next time, keep believing in love.